Hi, everyone. It's Shap. Welcome to another episode of Small Nuggets, Big Change. I want to thank you for checking out Dr. Jones and myself, our podcast. We really do appreciate it. We hope that every one of our episodes gives you something to think about, something to act on, and something positive. If you get a chance, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe to our channel, give us a like, give us a follow, give us some feedback that can really help us. Also, if you get a chance, I have a podcast called Cutting the Crap with Shap. Please consider subscribing. Also, Dr. Jones has one called Seeing to Lead, which is fabulous. Please check his out. So, on to today's prompt, and this is one coming from me, and this is called Don't Be a Bush Beater. So, if you don't know, Dr. Jones and I each give each other a prompt. Sometimes I'll give the prompt, sometimes he will, but we never get to see each other's response until after the video is done. So I don't know what his response will be, but this is my beginning. And then when I hear his, I will do a wrap up. So again, this is called Don't Be a Bush Beater. Okay. And what it really is something like this. I'm very, very blunt. So as a teacher, coach, a trainer who trains people, I'm always very much to the point. If somebody asks me a question, I tend to give them an answer. Now, I try to do so in a way that's respectful and kind and authentic, but I really believe it's important for all of us to not beat around the bush. That's why it says don't be a bush beater. Like, get to the point, tell people what you think, of course, in a way that's respectful and positive. Like, when I say that, it's really important. So, anybody listening, I hope you get this. I'm not talking about being harsh. Like, there's a difference between getting right to the point and being like mean and harsh, or getting right to the point in a way that is non-confrontational. Okay. I know I'm going to get some pushback on that, but that's okay. So don't be a bush beater to me is when you're talking to somebody or you have something to say it. Like, obviously choose your words wisely. You don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but you also don't want to lie about something because you want people to know how you feel. It's very, very important that when we're building really positive relationships, that we are authentic. I always teach this. I really believe this. Again, we want to be authentic in a way that is respecting other people's feelings. We don't want to be hurtful, but we also don't want to beat around the bush because then people really don't know where we stand. And that's kind of like my final thing here. It is so critical for people to know what you stand for, to know your values, to know your belief system. So you're being your true, authentic self. It's not always easy. Sometimes, if the topics are controversial, it can be challenging. But in the long run, it's just a much better way to go about things. So there is my take on Don't Be a Bush Beater. I'm going to come back with the wrap up after I hear Dr. Jones. Thanks again for all you do. We appreciate you. Please subscribe. You are awesome.
Hey everyone, Doc Jones here. And first, thank you for taking the time to listen to this collaborative effort by Craig Shapiro and myself called Small Nuggets, Big Change. This show is designed to help you take these small nuggets that we have and make big change in your life. And it works for us too, because we reflect on it. You see, we offer each other prompts and then comment on them without listening to what the other person is saying. And so sometimes, maybe like this week, we get one that we're kind of like, where are we going with this? And this week is don't be a bush beater. Now, to me, I thought about that, and I was thinking about when you beat the bush, it means you just keep going, you keep going, you keep at things, you keep at things. But then I thought about don't beat around the bush. And that's when you go around things, and you don't hit the main thing that you need to. So I thought about how this works. And what I came up with when we're talking about don't be a bush beater is the idea that you need to make sure you have a radically authentic, honest viewpoint of what you are dealing with in your life in front of you when you're trying to set a goal. Because see, if you beat the bush, then you just keep going and going and going, which could be good tenacity wise. But if you're not going in the right direction, or you're not addressing the actual root or source of the issue, which would be beating around the bush, then you're not going to get anywhere. So one of the most important strategies we can have for improvement is to first really identify, put a name to it, put whatever to it, but really identify by being honest and authentic what it is. And by it, I mean the issue or the goal that you're trying to achieve. Because if it's an issue and you keep going after it and you haven't ID'd it, you're not going to go anywhere. Same thing as if you are setting a goal and you're not honest about how you get to that goal, then you're really going to have an issue that way because you haven't been authentic. Radical authenticity. Step back and look. And then be honest about what you need to do. Look, if you're a bush beater, you keep harping on the same thing over and over and over again. Stop harping on it and take the correct action. If you're beating around the bush, you're not harping on it enough and avoiding the correct action. But either way, make sure you're honestly assessing what action needs to be taken based on the honest assessment of what it is you're trying to accomplish. Don't keep beating it if it doesn't matter. Don't keep avoiding if it does. And once you do that and take those first few steps, you'll know whether to keep going or to leave it alone. But either way, you'll stop being a bush beater and be better for it. Thanks for taking the time, everybody. That's where I'm at with that prompt. I can't wait to hear what Craig has to say about this because it was his. But remember, hit subscribe, follow us, share it. Let's grow this channel so everybody can benefit from these small nuggets that help them make big changes. And another reason to do that is because really, if you think about it, you are awesome.
Hi, everyone, it's Shap. So here we go. I am back for the wrap up for Don't Be a Bush Beater. So I just listened to my good friend and co-host, Dr. Chris Jones, give his take on our prompt, Don't Be a Bush Beater. And as usual, it was amazing, super smart, super insightful. So if you were watching this, the first part I talked about really kind of don't beat around the bush. Like if you have something to say, make sure that you're authentic. Make sure you do it in a respectful manner. You don't want people to take advantage of you. You want to be honest. Chris was thinking about that, and then he talked about something that I think is really just as important. And I took a few notes, so apologize if I'm just looking down for a sec to see them, but he really talked about it as you being your authentic self, which is kind of similar to what I was saying, not necessarily with goals, but just being who you are. And he really touched on a couple of things. I'm even going to kind of like look at my notes here. He talked about like making sure that you're being authentic and you're going in the right direction, like not beating around the bush in circles. Like know what your goal is, know what you're trying to achieve. And sometimes he said, and I love this, he goes, sometimes you just have to decide to just leave it. Like instead of going round and round and round in circles, just let it go and maybe focus on something else, which I thought was really important. And he said something like radically authentic. Again, I believe this is critical whether you're talking about trying to achieve a certain goal or how we're speaking to people, like not beating around the bush there. In either case, it is so important to stick to your own values, to know what you stand for. If you're trying to achieve a certain goal, that is so critical that you really believe that it's something you're going to be able to do. We talk about goals all the time. And I've even used the phrase with people that I talk about, is this something you really want? And that's kind of like, don't beat around the bush. Like if you don't really want this, you're not going to get it. And that's kind of what Chris was saying. So you really need to step back. He said, don't harp on things. And I love that. Like, if it's not going to work for you, move on. If you're really for it, then go for it. Don't beat around the bush, go for it. So there's our two takes on don't beat around the bush. Mine was more about how we speak to people, being authentic selves, not being a doormat, and Chris was talking more about goals. But in either case, we hope that you're getting something out of this. Chris and I speak frequently, and we love doing it. We love your support. So please consider subscribing to our channels. Again, mine is Cutting the Crap with Shap, and Dr. Jones has Seeing to Lead. They're both excellent. We'd really appreciate your support. Like it, share it, give us a suggestion of something you'd like to do. We cover all kinds of topics. So with that said, I want to thank my good friend Doc Jones for being amazing. Love working with him. For all of you out there who are checking out what we're doing, you are awesome.